everyone. Welcome back to the Nonprofits. So today we're going to talk about a man who wants to turn the United States into something straight out of The Handmaid's Tale, Pastor Doug Wilson. You might have seen him on CNN recently telling Pamela Brown with a straight face that his dream is a Christian town, a Christian state, a Christian nation, and ultimately a Christian world. Subtle, right? Yeah. And if that wasn't enough, Wilson's idea of democracy is households voting as a unit, with men, of course, casting the ballots. Women, he says their power is in reproduction. Their role, according to him, is being the kind of people that people come out of. Yes, in 2025, we're apparently recycling 14th century theology as political theory. But here's where it goes from fringe to frightening. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth didn't condemn this. He reposted it. He amplified it. Suddenly, this isn't just one radical pastor yelling from Idaho. It's a vision being winked at by people in power. So today, we're going to pull this apart. What Christian nationalism really means, why Wilson's rhetoric is dangerous, and what happens when theology gets weaponized into law. This story is from CNN by Pamela Brown, Shoshana, Dubnow on August 8th, 2025. Okay. I know I keep referring to everything as the Handmaid's Tale of this show, but we are kind of slowly creeping towards Gilead. Not my favorite. So, Kelly, Wilson says households should vote as a unit, with men casting the ballot. If his vision is truly democratic, what happens when a wife disagrees with her husband? Whose voice is erased in that system? I'll give you two guesses.
Yeah, I know that is pretty shitty. My mom was a conservative. She was married to a very conservative man, totally, and they got divorced. And I said something to her one day about voting conservative to her all those years, and she said, "No, actually, she didn't vote conservative. She just told her husband that to keep from having arguments." She was actually voting against him every time, and I thought, "Wow, that's awesome." Now, that could never happen in this kind of situation that Hibbs wants, right? And I don't think that's not democracy. I mean, that's going back to ancient Greece when you can only vote if you had property, right? And only the male with property could vote. It's kind of disturbing to me.
Well, I mean, keep in mind that, I wasn't allowed a credit card till the late 70s. So let's keep that in mind. And we're still living in a society where women Roe's been overturned. We're considered second-class citizens. We still participate in capitalism. Lucky for us. Yay. But as far as having any sort of freedom to make our own choices, it seems that we constantly have to answer to somebody that has a penis. It's a little tiring. I don't know why penis makes you smarter. Please expand on the two penis owners on the panel. I need to know.
I would even argue it often makes you dumber.
It's a sentiment I've never understood.
Yeah. So, Tracy, how dangerous is that Wilson's openly musing about repealing constitutional protections like the Fifth Amendment?
I think he should stop. I think it's incredibly dangerous for him. And I think that he should stop in the interest of his health.
In
the interest of his health, he should stop, be quiet, and go enjoy some golf in a nice little place. He looks like the kind of guy who would enjoy sitting on a golf cart and harassing a young lady who brings him drinks while he smacks a tiny ball around. So I think he should stop. It is incredibly dangerous to him. I think that people are listening to him a lot more than they should, especially people in our administration. It's quite frankly terrifying that how much notice, and not just notice, but encouragement is being given to voices like this one from our administration. It's spooky. That's all.
It's frightening is a better word to me. Frightening.
There you go.
It's frightening. I'm very concerned. It seems that, like, I don't know, when 100 years ago, when my predecessors were like, "Hey, we should be able to vote too," votes for women. It was great, and then now we're at risk of those things being repealed back, because like Pete Hegseth is obviously for this. Short story, by the way. When my husband, when he was he knew somebody in the punk rock days. Pete Hegseth also acted like a shit and got his ass handed to him in the DC punk circles, because he didn't know how to shut up and said a lot of not great things. So Pete has a reputation, but that's a little side story on the Pete has been this way a long time. But getting back to Wilson, I did notice that during the interview when oh crap, why am I blanking on her name now? God. Okay, when Pamela, sorry Pamela, said that she's a journalist with 3 kids, and he's like, good for you. Basically like this sort of like, well, you're a good little woman to have a career. Look at you being a journalist. And I just get the misogyny just is very gross. So, Kelly, with Wilson's logic is slippery at best. Everything becomes a theocracy if you just redefine the terms, right? Mm-hmm. How do we push back when bad faith actors try to win debates by twisting language instead of engaging with reality?
Yeah. It's funny that when I remember that comment distinctly. And I got a different take out of it than you did, but my take isn't any better than yours, to be honest with you. What I heard him doing was saying, "Oh, well, I'm going to just gainsay this thing so people don't think I'm as much of an asshole as I am. I'm going to give you this compliment so you don't think I'm a dick." That's what I got out of it. So, like I said, I interpreted it a completely different way, but it was no better than the way you interpreted it. And honestly, it was probably a little of both, to be honest, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I forgot the question again.
So it's fine. So what I was saying, that is logic is slippery. Everything becomes a theocracy, right? If you redefine terms. How do we push back when people like Wilson, which are bad faith actors, try to win debates by twisting language instead of engaging with reality? Because that's what he's twisting terms around.
Yeah, right. Totally. Yeah, just like our earlier pastor, our pastor from earlier this week, same thing. He's twisting things around to make them different than they are, and to create boogeymen that aren't there, right? How do we fight back? That's a good question. And I think what we're doing here is fighting back. Unfortunately, we're not reaching as many people as I would hope to reach. But I think going out and educating, talking to people, getting more people activated. We need, we really need to start organizing. There are so many small groups of people like us that need to get together and start becoming a larger group of people. We need to start expanding out. And maybe that way our message will reach a larger audience. So I think that'd probably be one of the best ways of fighting back. That's also one of the first lessons that Saul Alinsky does in his Rules for Radicals too, is to start organizing smaller organizations and allying smaller organizations into a larger body. So,
and like I do want to point out, like, if you choose to live in a household where your husband makes those decisions, that's your choice. I'm not, I'm all about the freedom of choice. But don't force that system onto the rest of us, just because you really want God to be like the super duper greatest thing ever. And he's saying Wilson says it's going to take him like 250 years for this to happen, which, great. I don't, he's not going to even be around to enjoy it. Isn't his God supposed to come back soon anyway? Like any day now? And this is the whole point of them pushing theocracy forward in our country? Isn't that why that's happening? So even him with his little like timeline is kind of like talking out both sides of his mouth. So that being said, Tracy, promising such a distant timeline, is it to keep followers hooked? And should we underestimate the power of slow, patient, radical movements, which I find very funny? Radical and slow and patient are contradictory, given that we've seen abortion rollbacks and culture wars. And just I mentioned before, like me as a woman being treated like a second-class citizen.
So I don't think we should be underestimating the power of slow and steady. I mean, tortoise in the hare, we've all seen it. We need to be on the lookout, because I think what movements such as these are very good at doing is planting seeds and waiting to harvest. They go after youth, and they recruit youth, and they wait till the youth gets older. I've been talking about this with some friends of mine, and like you guys, actually, I think I've talked to both of you about this. But we can't underestimate it. We need to keep the fight going right there. We need to always be keeping an eye on it and doing our best. That being said, and this is an opinion that comes from a place of privilege that I recognize. If you look back over history, it's a long story of 2 steps forward, 1 back, 2 steps forward, 1 back, and we're in a step back right now, and that sucks. That sucks horridly for the people who are around right now, and for the people who will be born into and grow up into this world. We just need to keep fighting the good fight and keep pushing in that direction. And I think that it, provided we can keep good messaging and, like Kelly said, ally ourselves with like-minded individuals, then we can be successful. But I did want to speak on what you guys were talking about earlier. I think you're both right about what that guy was saying to the reporter. I think that he was lying to try and seem like less of an asshole, but the best he could come up with was that condescending thing. Yeah, I think that it was. Yeah, I think you're both correct. Right. That the best he could do was be condescending and infantilizing to that woman. But no, I don't think we need to. We can't underestimate slow radical movements, because, as you're saying, Helen, we're in the worst timeline right now, and we need to make our way into a better one.
And we've seen the slow strategy work. Just within the last few years with abortion and cannabis legalization too. So,
and gay rights are next. That's the next thing that is coming up that might be repealed, which is terrifying. So that being said, I keep hearing the right talk about family values. I'm kind of over it right now, because I think family values is equality and kindness and respect and love for your fellow human being. I know, shocking. I know. I mean, I'm on the radical left, everybody. So,
I always hear him talk about family values, but I never hear him define what that means.
White, a Protestant, cis, man, woman, 2.5 kids, and maybe a dog.
So I don't think you guys know this. There is a prison gang called Family Values, and they started in the prison that I worked at. And so I had to deal with that constantly, with not only a prison gang called Family Values, but exactly what Helen is describing. The white Protestant, like, no, you must be a white man and a white woman, and not just any kind of white, a specific kind of white that doesn't have really much to do with anything that, like, the vast majority of America would associate with whiteness. It's a whole thing, and I'm really sick of these traditional family values. And I'm like, okay, I don't care about your traditions. Your traditions aren't my traditions. You can have your traditions and I'll have mine. Thank you. But
So that being said, isn't this just male supremacy dressed up as family values? Because that seems to be the thing that keeps repeating itself, Kelly. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. And maybe that's why they won't actually come right out and define it, too. Mm-hmm. Because they know if they do that, then they're probably going to lose a lot of support, or at least gain some animosity from a large section of our society.
So Tracy, my wonderful friend. So Doug Wilson and people like him, they're not fringe anymore. They used to be like in their weird churches, preaching about like, how, if you become liberal, you start practicing witchcraft and, become a lesbian, which doesn't sound like a bad time. So, but that being said, his voice, he's so close, and this keeps happening, of his voice being amplified. Pete Hegseth likes him. So what does it mean when we're living in a democracy, when the government legitimizes like Christian nationalist leaders instead of like being like, hey, not great, man, you got to stop that? Like, what does that mean for us?
I think it means that we're in a really scary time where there's a lot of people who have been yelling. So the American right for a very long time has been yelling at the American left that if you don't like America, then you can just get out. And I've always loved America. And so I've always been, I love America. I just want America to be better. It's like having a sick relative and you want to take them to the doctor. I don't want to abandon my relative just because they're a little sick. Whereas these guys talk about like overthrowing the Constitution on a regular basis, getting rid of amendments that were put in for basic human rights, like circumventing the democratic republic that we've had established for a very long time, and just being like, yeah, everything's a theocracy if you just change what theocracy means. Well, of course, and everything's a guitar if I change what guitar means. But like it's scary because these people are gaining massive traction, and I don't know, even if by the end of my life, if we're going to still have an America that's recognizable.
Are they, though, gaining that traction in the long run? I mean, and this is one of the things that Helen mentioned. He said this was going to be a 250-year project. And number one, yeah, Jesus is supposed to be on his way back. We're living in the end times, right? But the other thing is statistically, he's losing, at least here in the United States. The people who are turning away from the church, that percentage of people is getting larger and larger and larger. And to make his followers think that they're going to win, he's got to make that timeline of winning so far ahead in the future because they're losing right now, right? And he's trying to gain allies where, now, let's face it, if you're pretty intelligent, you've been well educated, you're not going to fall for this bullshit. So he's looking at trying to get allies all over. And they even mentioned in the interview that he has over 200 churches worldwide. And the one member of the organization that they chose to interview besides Hibbs himself was a man from Africa. And let's face it, the evangelicals are just making huge strides over in Africa. So this is a man who says, I can't win for 250 years, but you guys got to help me. And I'm going to bring in all these other uneducated people from all over the world, not just Africa, but all over the world, so that we can bolster our numbers. But because he's losing, his numbers are falling and falling and falling. He's having a hard time. I mean, I don't know that he's actually winning anything.
What I think that that's and also too, this rhetoric isn't even working among religious people. There are plenty of people that are religious that are not agreeing with this rhetoric. Mm-hmm. So we got to keep that in mind. There are people on our side that are religious and they're like, I don't want this. I want to be like, if I'm a Baptist, I want to be able to go to my Baptist church and worship and, you know, read my kids the Bible, but I don't think that it should become public policy. You know, to them, religion is a private matter. And I agree with that. Like, the only reason why I'm sitting here, you know, screaming at everybody, be like, hey, this is really bad, because it's going to be bad for everybody, not just queer people, not just women, not just people of color. It's going to be bad for all of us. If Wilson even gets like little tiny pushes in the door, and he is doing that long timeline. But the thing is, though, that's what the conservatives have been banking on. The Christian fundamentalists have been doing this since the 50s, and they're playing the long game. And Wilson knows that he has to play the long game. Tracy, you were going to say something.
Yeah, it's not super. I think that I'm mainly just concerned about the people who aren't practicing good skepticism. Like there's this Christian nationalist flag. It's just white with a cross on it. You've probably seen it. And I was on a road trip with my family not too long ago, and I saw it, and I said that it was like related to the Klan. And then my family was like, wait, what? That's outside my aunt's church. We should, let's look, that's a problem. If that's Klan, we need to think about that. I said, oh no, Tracy, it's Christian nationalism. I was like, oh, okay. So just something the Klan would agree with then. And they were like, yeah, I guess you're right. And then we stopped the conversation there because they hadn't thought about it in those terms. She thought of it as a good thing because it was connected to her church. And I think that's the thing I'm more concerned about, not necessarily like the membership to this particular pastor's churches or what have you, but just like what we were talking about, the slow, steady creep. Just put this little thing in there and wait until everybody stops noticing it, and then put another thing on top of it, and then just do that over and over again. I think that's what I'm really concerned about, letting run away with itself.
So I don't want to end this as being negative Nancy. So Kelly, give me something positive we can do to keep this from happening? And Tracy, same question as we wrap up this segment.
Just keep going out there and fighting the good fight and talking the good talk. I mean, I don't know what else we could do. Honestly, I keep saying it all the time. It doesn't take much. And one of the things that I found, I was really afraid to stand up and talk the first time. And when I did, it just, all that fear melted away. And after I got done talking, I was surprised at how many people walked up to me and said they felt the same way and wanted to be my friend. So go out there, stand up, talk. That's about the best you can do.
Tracy?
Just don't be quiet. You just got to be loud. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. And
very well said. So if you want to know how to triumph over evil, click a video. You got lots of videos to click on. Also like, subscribe, and go visit the ACA website and buy some merch, read some stuff. And thank you so much for being here. And we'll see you next time. Bye.